The sound collector. The noise was unbearable. Every night, as soon as Eric lay his head down on his pillow, the high-pitched ringing would start. Tinnitus, the doctors had said, there was no cure. It was the price of years spent performing in noisy bars and clubs with his band. They suggested noise-canceling headphones or white noise machines to sleep, but nothing worked. The ringing persisted, growing louder with each passing day, as if something inside his head was crying out for release. Eric felt like he was going mad. One evening, after yet another sleepless night, he wandered into a small, out-of-the-way pawn shop that he had never noticed before. The place smelled of dust and forgotten things. Shelves lined the walls, cluttered with oddities. Old radios, broken clocks, and strange devices that looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. "Looking for something special?" came a voice from behind the counter. The man was elderly, his skin paper-thin, with a pair of round glasses perched on his nose. He gave Eric a slow, deliberate smile, as though he knew exactly what kind of pain he was in. "I can't sleep," Eric said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "My ears, they won't stop ringing." The old man nodded sympathetically and gestured for Eric to follow him. He led him to the back of the shop where an old, wooden box sat on a dusty shelf. It looked ordinary enough, but when the man opened it, the interior gleamed with silver dials and intricate gears. A funnel-like device was attached to the top. "This," the shopkeeper said, his voice dropping to a near whisper, "is a sound collector." Eric raised an eyebrow. "A what?" "It captures sounds," the man explained, "and traps them inside. You place the funnel near the source of the sound, turn the dials, and the sound is gone. Forever." Eric stared at the device in disbelief. It seemed like a ridiculous claim, and yet, something about it drew him in. The idea of silence, of peace, was too tempting to ignore. "How much?" The man smiled. "For you? A simple trade. Give me a sound of your choosing, and the box is yours." A trade? Eric thought about it for a moment. What sound would he even offer? Then, without a second thought, he whispered, "The sound of the ringing. Take that." The old man's smile widened, and he nodded. He gestured for Eric to place his ear to the funnel, and the moment he did, he felt the strangest sensation. It was as though something was being pulled out of him, a soft tug at the edge of his hearing. The ever-present ringing, which had plagued him for months, began to fade. And then silence. Eric blinked in disbelief. Pulling away from the funnel, he snapped his fingers near his ears. Nothing. He clapped his hands, expecting the ringing to return with the loud noise. Still nothing. The sound was gone. He couldn't believe it. He thanked the shopkeeper profusely and rushed out with the device in hand, eager to return home to his first quiet night's sleep in ages. That night, he slept soundly for the first time in months. No more ringing, no more maddening noise, just blissful silence. But the next day, Eric noticed something strange. The birds outside his window didn't chirp. The cars driving past his apartment made no sound. Even the hum of his refrigerator, the quiet word that had always been present, was gone. He checked his hearing, clapping his hands, turning on his stereo. Everything worked fine, but certain sounds, small, subtle noises, seemed to have disappeared. At first, he dismissed it as a side effect of the device. Perhaps it had tuned out certain frequencies. But as the days went on, more sounds vanished. The ticking of his clock stopped. The sound of pages turning in his books fell silent. Even the sound of his own breath began to fade. And then, the dreams began. In his sleep, Eric heard faint, echoing sounds. A distant ringing, but not the tinnitus. It was something else. Familiar sounds, everyday noises, all jumbled together. A door creaking, a dog barking, footsteps on pavement. Each sound trying to claw its way back to the surface. But every time he woke up, those sounds were gone. Desperate, he returned to the pawn shop, clutching the sound collector in his hands. "I want to undo it," Eric demanded. "I want my sounds back." The old man looked at him with a sad smile. I'm afraid that's not how it works, son. Once a sound is collected, it's lost forever. But if you're really desperate, there is a way to make an exchange. An exchange? Eric's pulse quickened. What do you mean? You can give the device a new sound, the man explained. Something dear to you. Something meaningful. The collector will release the sounds it's taken in exchange. Eric hesitated. What could he offer? What sound could be more precious than the ability to hear the world around him? Then it hit him. His music. His band. The one thing that had always defined him. The songs he had written, the melodies he had played to packed rooms, the harmonies that had once filled him with joy. It was the only thing that truly mattered to him. Without hesitation, Eric made the choice. He placed his guitar on the counter, and the shopkeeper nodded knowingly. "Play one last song," the old man said softly. Eric strummed the strings, his fingers moving mechanically across the frets, playing the song that had made him who he was. The notes filled the room, rich and full, and as he played, he felt the pull again. The soft tug of the sound collector taking the music from him. When he finished, silence settled over the room. The old man took the guitar and placed it behind the counter. "It is done." Eric left the shop, his ears ringing once more, not with the unbearable noise of tinnitus, but with the absence of sound. He tried to hum a tune, but no melody came. He went to band practice, but the music was gone. It was as though every note, every rhythm had been erased from his soul. He could hear the world again, but at what cost? As Eric walked home, the distant sounds of life returned, but they were hollow, empty echoes of what they once were. And every night, when he lay his head down to sleep, the collector whispered in his dreams, reminding him of the music he had lost forever.